A shaman ties a pregnant woman to an altar and draws a dagger, preparing to gouge the fetus straight out of her womb. The only reason he does this is to harvest these fresh lives to attain even more formidable power. But little does the shaman know that an even more terrifying entity has already quietly locked its sights on him. This 2025 Thai horror flick, Panor, lays out all the gore, violence, and explicit elements right before our eyes, especially the black magic within the cult system, which leaves viewers thoroughly chilled to the bone. It not only continues the franchise's signature blood and horror, but also utilizes a massive amount of practical special effects and lifelike makeup artistry to guarantee an authentic, visceral viewing experience for the audience. All right, enough talk. Let's dive straight into the feature. In a quiet little town in Thailand, a massive flock of crows suddenly flies in out of nowhere. They blot out the sky as they sweep through, looking as if something deeply sinister is about to go down. Terrified out of their wits, the villagers all scramble back into their homes. Before long, these crows completely swarm and gather right in front of a single house. Inside, a pregnant woman carrying fraternal twins is currently in the middle of labor. The moment the crows land on the windowsill, the midwife immediately senses that something is terribly wrong. Sure enough, when the pregnant woman delivers the first baby, it turns out to be a stillborn that has been completely drained of its blood. Before the midwife can even process what is happening, the other fetus inside the woman's womb yanks the stillborn's umbilical cord right back inside. Scared stiff, the midwife flees the room on the spot. The mother sits up to look, only to discover that the newborn baby girl is actually gnawing on the umbilical cord in her hands. Such a horrifying sight completely traumatizes the poor woman right then and there. In the very next second, countless crows drop dead onto the ground simultaneously, as if controlled by some unseen force. And this clearly indicates that this baby girl's identity is anything but ordinary. Because in Southeast Asian culture, crows have always been regarded as messengers of souls and omens of death. By utilizing this highly symbolic, ominous celestial phenomenon, the opening of the film is telling everyone that the birth of this baby girl will bring an absolute curse upon the town. Fast forward, and 9 years fly by in the blink of an eye. The baby girl from back then has grown up, and her name is Panor. Since her mother blames her brother's death entirely on Panor, she does absolutely nothing except throw her some food every day, leaving her neglected in a dark corner. This causes Panor to turn into a highly introverted and quiet little girl who never takes the initiative to approach anyone. One day, a master notices Panor's presence, and seeing the ominous aura swirling all around her, he prepares to use his spiritual magic to dispel the curse for her. But to his absolute shock, the moment the ritual begins, the master suffers a severe supernatural backlash, spitting out blood on the spot and collapsing to the floor. From that moment on, the villagers treat Panor as a walking jinx, strictly warning her mother to keep her locked away so she cannot harm anyone else. Just like that, a few more years roll by. Panor is now attending a nearby high school, but her reputation as a cursed child keeps most of her classmates from wanting anything to do with her. There is only one exception, a girl named Teo. She is the daughter of the local police chief and possesses a very bright, upbeat personality. While everyone else avoids Panor like the plague, Teo does not give a single damn about those nasty rumors. Because Teo believes that Panor is just someone who desperately needs a friend, and she wants to be that friend for her. They go shopping together, grab meals together, and even take a friendship photo at a local studio. This brings a genuine smile to Panor's face for once, causing the dark cloud of isolation that used to haunt her to gradually drift away. One day, right outside a movie theater, they spot a gang of hoodlums ganging up on and beating a young boy. To their surprise, the boy is incredibly agile, knocking these punks flat on the ground in just a few swift moves. However, just as he lets his guard down, one of the thugs suddenly pulls out a sharp dagger. Seeing this, Panor quickly shouts out a warning to him. Fortunately, Teo shouts, "Police!" to scare them away. But strangely enough, even though the boy is clearly slashed by the dagger, he does not have a single scratch on him. Panor tries to step forward to check on him, but the boy shows absolutely no gratitude. The boy's name is Piak, who is the only kid willing to play with Panor when she is little. That day, she goes over to play with Piak, only to get caught red-handed by his mother. But the moment his mother touches Panor, her body undergoes a deeply bizarre transformation. Her veins pop out wildly, her skin begins turning pitch black, and she collapses to the ground in sheer agony. Witnessing this, Panor quickly grabs her by the throat, attempting to absorb the malevolent energy from her body into her own. This happens to be a unique, innate ability that Panor is born with. Completely oblivious to what is actually happening, Piak's father rushes over and violently shoves Panor aside, which ultimately causes Piak's mother to lose her life on the spot. Ever since that tragic day, Piak holds a deep, burning grudge against Panor, firmly believing that her mere presence is what takes his mother's life. Being only 9 years old at the time, Panor does not know how to defend herself, leaving her with no choice but to silently endure Piak's bitter misunderstanding. Because deep down in her heart, she also considers herself a cursed being, whose presence brings nothing but misfortune to anyone who dares get close. So Panor stops begging for acceptance, and only wishes to live out her days in quiet peace. Yet ironically, in the deepest recesses of her soul, she still yearns to be loved and cherished. This internal conflict makes her resemble a defensive porcupine, forever curling up in a corner, desperately wanting to protect herself, while remaining unable to completely shut the outside world out. Fortunately, Taeyu's arrival successfully helps Panor step out of those dark shadows. Even after finding out about what happened to Piak's mother, Taeyu does not show a single hint of fear. Later that night, Panor's mother, Nuan, enters a room and continuously worships before the altar in front of her. Right in the very center of the altar lie the skeletal remains of that baby boy. It turns out that all these years, she has never stopped missing this son of hers. After throwing down a few shots of hard liquor, Nuan picks up a dagger, preparing to reunite with her son. Fortunately, Panor rushes in just in time to put a stop to it. Judging by the ritualistic runes tattooed across Nuan's back, it is crystal clear that she hides some dark, deep-seated secret. Sure enough, while sleeping that night, Panor experiences a deeply bizarre nightmare. She dreams of her mother kneeling before an altar, her back carved with those mysterious, creepy symbols, as if conducting some terrifying ritual. Just as Panor prepares to step forward to investigate, her mother in the dream suddenly whips around, and right after that, a baby manifests inside her stomach. Terrified out of her mind, Panor snaps awake on the spot. At this moment, she still has absolutely no clue what that nightmare actually signifies. The following day, Panor navigates a wooden boat to go look for Taeyu, only to discover the riverbank swarming with cops halfway through her journey. Driven by curiosity, Panor steps closer to see what the commotion is about. It turns out a brutal unaliving case has rocked the town, where a man's corpse is left in an extremely savage state, surrounded by numerous ritualistic tools, indicating that someone targeted him with black magic. What makes it even creepier is that the pattern tattooed on his chest is a spitting image of the one Panor saw in her dream. The deceased man's friend informs the police that he spotted the man loitering near Panor's house last night, never expecting him to lose his life mysteriously the very next day. Upon hearing the friend's words, the victim's wife immediately accuses Panor of being the one who unalived her husband. Sensing impending doom, Panor quickly flees the scene, because she knows damn well that the villagers view her as a curse, and no matter how she explains herself, not a single soul will believe her. Afterwards, Panor tracks down Taeyu, recounts last night's nightmare to her, and even sketches out the bizarre pattern found on the dead man's body. Believing this to be a crucial piece of information, Taeyu decides to head over to find her father to see if they can dig up any leads. However, just as they stand up, blood begins trickling down Panor's leg, which instantly scares her half to death. Standing beside her, Taeyu recognizes at a single glance that this is Panor getting her very first menstrual period. After handing her a pack of sanitary products, Taeyu prepares to deliver the sketch to her father. But out of nowhere, she gets knocked down by a pedestrian halfway there. Just as she gets ready to stand up, she notices that this stranger also sports a tattoo on his chest, identical to the dead man's. Realizing something is seriously off, Taeyu does not linger around and sprints straight toward her house. But what Taeyu does not know is that she has already been targeted by that very pedestrian. In the very next second, an abnormality erupts inside Taeyu's body. She drops to her knees, vomiting uncontrollably, and unexpectedly retches up a gecko's placenta. Before Taeyu can even process what is happening, her body begins convulsing violently, clearly indicating she has been struck by some horrific sorcery. Hearing the commotion, Panor rushes over to the scene, grabbing Taeyu by the throat in an attempt to suck the black magic out of her body. However, the caster's spiritual power is far too immense, yielding zero results no matter how hard Panor tries. Amidst Taeoo's agonizing shrieks, countless geckos begin bursting out from inside her body. In Thai occultism, geckos are often viewed as creatures possessing regenerative abilities because they can regrow their tails after they are severed. But in this movie, it is twisted into a highly aggressive, malevolent omen. As the geckos crawl out from Taeoo's body, it symbolizes a corrupted rebirth of life. Those sinister forces that should have been weeded out by nature are forcefully injected into a human body through dark sorcery. Once two geckos burst right out of Taeoo's eyeballs, she completely stops breathing. Watching her only true friend perish so brutally, Panor feels as if her entire world has come crashing down. At that exact moment, Taeoo's father, Inspector Tom, happens to be patrolling nearby, and catching Panor holding his daughter by the throat, he busts her on the spot and locks her up in the station's holding cell. Following the forensic examination, it is determined that Taeoo passed away due to excessive blood loss, along with numerous internal lacerations. Yet strangely enough, the authorities find absolutely no trace of the geckos Panor kept talking about at the scene. Due to a total lack of substantial evidence, Inspector Tom has no choice but to release Panor without charges. That very night, an infuriated Nuon locks Panor inside her room. Just like everybody else, Nuon treats her own daughter like an absolute jinx, ordering her never to involve herself with anyone ever again. Shortly after, Nuon receives a mysterious note stating that Panor has finally gotten her period and that it is time to set their master plan into motion. And this very note signals that a terrifying conspiracy has officially commenced. Helpless, Panor can do nothing but sit in her room, staring blankly at Taeoo's photograph. She simply cannot wrap her head around why, despite never hurting or cursing a single soul, everyone insists on treating her like a walking plague, to the point where her only friend is savagely taken away from her. Just as Panor's agony reaches its absolute boiling point, a celestial anomaly abruptly manifests in the sky. A massive, blood-red moon hangs heavily in the dead of night. This marks the legendary hour when dark magic peaks at its absolute strongest. Right then, incantations echo in Panor's ears, sounding as though they are vibrating from deep inside her own body. Terrified, she tries to call out to her mother for help, but Nuon just stands by the door, completely tuning her out. In the blink of an eye, an unbearable itch consumes Panor's entire body as her skin begins peeling off layer by layer. She endures this excruciating torture for the entire night. When morning finally comes and Panor steps out of her room, the surrounding villagers are completely frozen in their tracks, because Panor has changed. Not just in facial features, but her entire aura is completely unrecognizable from before. The old Panor with dark skin and a face full of acne is completely gone, replaced by a fair-skinned young woman with exquisitely delicate features. Gone is the timidity and fear in her eyes, replaced by an overwhelming sense of raw confidence. Her commanding presence forces all her classmates to steal extra glances at her. Panor enters the classroom and places a bouquet of flowers gently onto Taeoo's desk. On the day of the funeral, Panor makes a silent, deadly vow to herself. No matter who unalived Taeoo, she will make them pay a devastating price. During recess, the school bully, Pong, takes the initiative to approach Panor and strike up a conversation. Seeing that he shows an interest in her, Panor wants him to do her a solid by taking her out to a nearby small island. Out there stands an abandoned temple, a spitting image of the setting from her nightmare. Little did they know, their entire conversation is completely overheard by Pong's girlfriend, Jib. She happens to be an insanely jealous person. So later that very night, the moment Pong and Panor set foot on the island, Jib ambushes them with a whole gang. It turns out, this entire setup is a calculated trap orchestrated by Pong and Jib. They pin Panor hard to the ground, preparing to violently assault her. Fortunately, at the absolute clutch moment, Piak arrives just in the nick of time and successfully beats them away. It turns out that earlier during the day, Piak accidentally eavesdropped on Pong and Jib's sinister plot. No matter how much burning resentment he harbors against Panor, he simply cannot stand by and watch her get hurt by anyone. At this moment, Panor recalls Taeoo's past words. If you do not want to be pushed around, you must do something that strikes pure terror into them, because endless tolerance will only make these people cross the line even further. The next day, Panor storms into the school completely enraged, and without saying a single word, she uses a pair of scissors to slash Pong's arm open. Seeing this, Jib tries to intervene, but Panor pins her flat to the ground and carves a deep, long gash right across her face. At this point, Panor is no longer that helpless little girl who takes abuse lying down. She chooses to fight fire with absolute fire. This choice is not part of her nature, but rather pushed upon her by her unforgiving environment. After taking care of business, Panor heads to the temple to locate the master who once tried to help her, expressing her deepest repentance to him. Next, Panor brings over a basin of hot water, helping the master absorb the malevolent energy trapped inside his body. Little does she know, this entire scene is caught by Piak, who is hiding out in the shadows. Only now does it finally dawn on him that his mother was actually targeted by a curse back then, and Panor was merely trying to help, while they completely misunderstood and blamed her for taking his mother's life. Meanwhile, on the other side, the disfigured Jib harbors a deep-seated grudge, tracking down a local witch doctor in town to plot her revenge against Panor. When night falls, Panor barely steps inside her home before the door swings open all on its own, followed immediately by a dark shadow darting past behind her. Terrified out of her wits, Panor hastily scans her surroundings. Panor ducks beneath a massive tree, completely terrified to make even a single peep. She initially thinks the intruder has already left, but to her absolute shock, a clay doll violently drags Panor out in the very next second. Panor fights back with everything she has, but she is simply no match for this clay monster, which pins her flat to the ground in mere moments. Right when a machete is about to slice open Panor's throat, a middle-aged man suddenly bursts onto the scene, shattering the clay doll's head with a single swing of his club. Seeing his ritualistic vessel completely obliterated, the witch doctor chants another incantation and possesses Panor's body, preparing to go toe-to-toe with the newcomer. But little does the witch doctor know that this man, Uncle Tree, is a sorcerer far more formidable than he could ever imagine. Following a relentless barrage of attacks from Uncle Tree, the witch doctor's chest instantly shatters, causing him to drop dead on the spot. Right then, Nuon emerges from the house, and without uttering a single word, Tree immediately unleashes a savage beating upon her. Witnessing this, Panor rushes forward to shield her mother. However, Tree exposes a brutal reality, revealing that Nuon only brought Panor into this world for the sake of money, and now that her mission is accomplished, Panor will be taking Nuon's place. Right at this exact moment, Panor spots the distinct tattoo on Tree's chest. At this exact moment, it instantly clicks for her that Tree is the very occultist who unalived Teu. Taking advantage of their heated confrontation, Nuon launches a surprise attack on Tree by plunging a knife straight into his back, before quickly taking Panor onto a boat to flee toward her older sister Masuri's house. Instead of giving chase, Tree utilizes dark magic to summon a flock of crows to relentlessly assault Nuon. By the time they finally reach Masuri's home, Nuon is already clinging to her last breath, on the absolute verge of passing away. After offering a long overdue apology to Panor, she completely stops breathing. They bury Nuon on the back of the mountain, where Masuri decides to unveil a dark past that has been buried for years. It turns out that when Nuon is young, she dreams of becoming a pop star in Thailand, only to be deceived by a dark sorcerer with financial promises, who not only violates her body, but also plots to have her bear a baby boy to harvest ultimate black magic capabilities. But much to their shock, while the baby boy is still inside the mother's womb, his raw power is completely siphoned and absorbed by Panor instead. Consequently, the dark sorcerer has no choice but to ensure Panor remains pure, waiting until she truly comes of age before extracting the power from within her body. In the eyes of these monsters, women are nothing more than mere vessels to harvest supreme power. Just while Panor is mourning over her mother's passing, Tree on the other side sets up his altar once again to perform dark rituals, successfully tracking down Panor's location by utilizing the crows. Seeing this, Masuri wants to hide Panor away, but it is already too late. Before long, an invisible force slams Panor hard onto the ground, siphoning the dark magic straight out of her body from a distance. If this ritual continues any longer, Panor will undoubtedly face a fatal end. Unable to stand by any longer, Masuri grabs a cup of holy water to smear across Panor's forehead, chanting an obscure incantation to force the awakening of the dark magic dormant within Panor. The very moment the black magic floods her veins, Tree's spell is violently cut short. At this point, he recognizes that dealing with Panor from here on out is going to be incredibly tricky. Right then, a mysterious figure tracks Tree down, commanding him to recapture Panor immediately before she can fully master her newfound power. Upon fully awakening her dark capabilities, the very first thing Panor does is test her skills on the classmates who used to torment her. She molds a few small figures out of mud, officially kicking off her personal hour of reckoning. Meanwhile, right after getting intimate with Pong, Jib pulls out a vial of black dog's blood, claiming that with this ward, they have absolutely nothing to fear from Panor's voodoo. However, the moment she sends Pong away, she turns around only to find Panor standing right inside her bedroom. Sensing imminent danger, Jib scrambles to grab the dog's blood underneath her bed, only to find herself completely paralyzed by Panor's black magic. Panor blows a handful of mysterious powder over Jib, instantly summoning the vengeful spirit of that deceased witch doctor. The entity grabs Jib by her hair, ripping her entire scalp clean off her head. On the other side of town, Pong returns home and frantically seeks out Uncle Tree, begging him to deal with Panor. By this time, Panor already arrives just outside the house, drawing her ritual tools to eliminate Pong, only for Tree to detect her presence and shatter her hex on the spot. But little does Tree know that he is the actual target Panor is aiming for all along. She deliberately acts as if she is outmatched to lower Tree's guard, and the moment he blinks, Panor splashes the black dog's blood to instantly obliterate his protective barrier. Panor then grabs Tree's own hammer, taking him out permanently. After dealing with Tree, Panor searches his room, only to make a chilling discovery of group photos on the wall, each featuring a different child. They are some still infants wrapped in blankets, while others have grown into adults. Yet every single photograph shares a common backdrop featuring a specific cult symbol. It becomes clear that they have sacrificed an untold number of innocent young lives just to harvest raw power. The photos on the wall expose a cult network far more massive and terrifying than any lone sorcerer. They systematically adopt or abduct baby girls, turning them into vessels for dark sorcery, and exploiting their pure blood to amplify their own mystical forces. And this sinister cult goes by the name of the Three-Eyed Sect. Armed with the truth about their identities, Panor tracks down Pong to complete her ultimate path of vengeance. Before long, Pong and Jib find themselves tightly bound together. No matter how desperately he begs for mercy, Panor remains dead silent, pulling out a pair of pliers to snap Pong's toes off, one by one. After snapping all of Pong's toes, Panor turns her attention to Jib. Wanting to ensure they stay together forever, she draws a long strand of iron wire, tightly sewing their skin into one piece. The sweet promise Pong once made to Jib is ultimately fulfilled in the most horrific way imaginable. Before long, the police station receives multiple reports regarding the disappearance of numerous teenagers in town. Inspector Tom leads his men to conduct a massive dragnet search of the area, inevitably discovering 4 other students who used to bully Panor right inside the school. They are found tied securely to chairs, having already lost their lives. Right after that, the authorities uncover 3 more bodies over at Tree's residence. Pong and Jib are found sewn together, while Tree's internal organs have been completely hollowed out. Inspector Tom knows damn well that this is all Panor's calculated campaign of retribution. This is because he previously gathered intel regarding the Three-Eyed Sect from the master at the temple. According to his assessment, Panor will definitely stop at nothing to track down and eliminate every last member of this organization. And they happen to be hosting a dark sorcery convention very soon. Even though he knows these cultists are pure evil, his duty as the chief compels him to set up a massive dragnet at the venue, waiting for Panor to walk into the trap. Before the grand ritual kicks off, the members gather around to enjoy a lavish feast. A cultist suddenly spits out a chunk of meat covered in a distinct tattoo. That is right, this meat is carved straight from Tree's corpse. Panor minced his internal organs and core muscle tissue, utilizing an incredibly sinister hex to mix them right into today's catering. Anyone belonging to the Three-Eyed Sect who consumes this meat instantly falls into a bloodthirsty, frenzied state. Panor slowly emerges from the shadows, chanting ancient, dark incantations. She witnesses the cultists tearing into each other until every single one of them meets their demise. Just when Panor thinks she can wipe the entire roster out in one clean sweep, a man suddenly materializes in the middle of the crowd. He is just giving a gentle pat on a cultist's shoulder, instantly restoring the man back to absolute sanity. The man then slaps Piok's backside, forcing a mysterious object to burrow deep into the boy's body. He threatens Panor that if she complies and leaves with him, he will spare Piak's life. Left with zero options, Panor has no choice but to surrender. To save this boy, who once brought warmth to her life, subsequently abandoned her, and now tried to rescue her, Panor lets the cultists drag her away without a fight. To everyone's absolute shock, this man turns out to be Panor's biological father, the Dark Sorcerer. He quickly orders his henchmen to bring Panor before a grand altar. At a single glance, Panor recognizes this as the exact location from her nightmares. He plans to utilize an ancient, sinister method to extract the dark magic from Panor's body, sacrificing her pure form to usurp her absolute power. What is even more mind-blowing is that 90% of the cultists present at the scene are actually his own children. Just as the ritual is about to commence, Tom arrives with his squad just in the nick of time, firing a round straight into the Dark Sorcerer. But bizarrely enough, he seems completely bulletproof, as the round fails to inflict even a single scratch on him. To prevent these intruders from ruining his master plan, he summons a massive swarm of crows to attack Tom's squad, while he proceeds to finish his uncompleted ritual. He utilizes the mask of the three-eyed god, intending to siphon the dark magic out of Panor first. Fortunately, in the nick of time, Piak arrives just in time to interrupt the spellcasting process with a machete. However, the Dark Sorcerer possesses an invulnerable body, rendering standard physical attacks completely useless. Just as he is about to eliminate Piak, his arm suddenly bursts into raging flames. It turns out Masuri weaponized the stillborn baby, breaking the sorcerer's invulnerability through their shared bloodline. Taking advantage of the burning sorcerer's distraction, Piak quickly unbinds Panor from her restraints. Once freed, Panor approaches the Dark Sorcerer, slicing his stomach open with a dagger to violently tear his heart out, before putting it in her mouth and devouring it bite by bite. Following the sorcerer's permanent elimination, Panor's vision goes black as she collapses into unconsciousness. When she wakes up the next morning, she appears to have lost her entire memory, forgetting all about Piak and failing to even recall her own identity. But perhaps this is for the best, allowing her to live a carefree life as an ordinary person from here on out. And with that, the movie comes to an end. This ending of the movie is honestly completely unexpected. Panor completely destroys the cult organization and devours the Dark Sorcerer's heart, only to wake up stripped of her entire memory. She forgets Piak and forgets her own identity, looking as if none of this horror ever transpired. Yet, the director utilizes this specific ending to leave us with a thought-provoking, open-ended question. On the surface, it looks like the absolute best outcome, where Panor can finally discard the shackles of being a curse and start fresh as a normal human being. But is the systemic cult network truly dismantled? The group photos on Tree's wall heavily imply that the scale of this organization stretches far beyond imagination. Panor losing her memory also translates to a total loss of her ability to investigate further. Perhaps this is the exact message the director wants to convey. An individual's path of retribution can reach its conclusion, but systemic oppression never truly ends with the victory of a single soul.